done it again.
Professional as ever. I forgot to put my microphone in. So, hi everyone. It's Thursday, which means it's another Thursday truth from me. So, slightly different. The next few weeks I'm going to be talking about various different therapies, how they work and how they can work with endometriosis. So this is the first one in the series. This is looking at what Reiki is and how Reiki can help with endometriosis. So it's important to say, and I will try and remember to say this at the beginning of all of these, endometriosis is a really, 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 really complex condition, and one therapy alone is not going to sort your endo out. And it pains me to say it, and a lot of therapists will always say that they can help anything, and we can. Natural therapies, natural remedies helps with most, if not all, illnesses and conditions. However, if you're going to get long-term success with your endometriosis, then you need to look at a range of therapy options, and this is what this series is designed to do. I'm going to talk you through, in turn, different remedies, different therapies, what they are and how they can help endometriosis. And when I'm talking about endometriosis, it goes without saying that I'm talking about a whole host of related conditions as well. Any questions? Pop them in the comments and give me a hashtag replay if you're watching on replay as well, and I'll come back to the comments at some point. So today we're going to be talking about Reiki. So what is Reiki? Now, Reiki will always be my first love when it comes to therapies and treatments. Reiki is where I started off. It was the therapy that I first tried myself to help my endometriosis symptoms, and I went into it with a very cynical mind. I went into it thinking that at most I was going to get an hour of relaxation away from the stresses and strains of life, and I wasn't really expecting much more than that. And to be honest, my first session didn't really blow me away too much. It was exactly that. It was an hour of relaxation. And I'm sure if you've followed my webinars, if you've heard me talking before, you'll have heard this story. But basically, I keep getting dive bombed by this fly. I think it's taking residence here, and it just comes out when I'm on here. What was I saying? Yes, so I went into it with no expectations, and yes, it was pretty much that. It was an hour of relaxation. I did feel some sensations, but it just felt like I was just intensely relaxed, which in itself was a bonus because I hadn't been relaxed for a long time. I'd been struggling with work, I'd been struggling with my endometriosis symptoms, I'd been stressing because I wasn't getting the support I needed from the doctor, the medication I was on, because that was at the same time. I think I'd just come off the Zoladex. I think the symptoms had just started returning after I'd been on the Zoladex, I think. So I was just starting to get the bad symptoms again. But I'd never really got rid of some of the Zoladex symptoms either, so the bloating and things had never really disappeared. But anyway, so yeah, I wasn't really expecting much, and my expectations were kind of met. However, when I got home, I realised that, so when I'd gone in, I'd just dumped all my stuff on the floor before getting on the couch. And it wasn't until I got home that I realised that I had bent down from my waist to pick my car keys up at the end of the session. And bending down from the waist is something that I hadn't been able to do for months. I don't, obviously, as if you've got the same symptoms as I had with your endo, you'll know that we don't bend from the hips, we don't bend from the waist. We curtsy and pick things up because it doesn't hurt as much. But no, I'd bent down and it hadn't hurt at all. I'd driven all the way home. So again, if you had the similar symptoms to me, then changing gear quite often could hurt. But I've driven home with no symptoms at all. So I was actually blown away, and the result of that treatment lasted for a few weeks. And I didn't have the side effects that I'd had with the Zoladex, with the pill, but my symptoms were vastly improved. So, long story, I'll cut it short there. So that's where my Reiki journey began. And I used Reiki to treat my own symptoms for a long time before I started looking at other treatments as well. What is Reiki? So, for those who are new to alternative therapies, natural therapies, alternative medicine, call it what you will, complementary therapies, go back and check last week's live before you watch this, because it's all around energy. And I won't go into it all because I've covered it last week, but if you haven't seen that live, go back and see lives, or it's on my YouTube channel if it's easier to find on there. But basically, Reiki is the energy that I was speaking about that is all around us, and Reiki itself stands for universal life energy, Rei and Ki. The Ki is the same as the Chi, the Qi or the Chi that you see in Japanese, Qi Gong, Tai Chi, all of that kind of stuff. It's the same energy. Ki is the Japanese form of it, the Japanese word for it. Reiki is Japanese. It was founded not that long ago. It's a relatively modern technique, but it was founded by an expert in Qigong and energy work. He'd been working with energy for all of his life, and he started to use it to treat ailments amongst his followers, amongst his students, his energy students, and it developed into what we now call Reiki today. Now, Reiki basically uses that universal energy, that universal life energy that is all around us, to boost the body's natural healing responses. And it's doing a few things when it's doing that. So at its most basic level, it is relaxing us. But as we know, if you've watched my other lives, as you know, just general relaxation has an epigenetic response within our body. So it starts to change how our cells are reacting when we are stressed. So when we're relaxing, that shifts our cellular structure. It causes changes on a cellular level within our bodies. Our cells revert back to how they should be. So they regain their natural healing properties, amongst other stuff. But everything just starts to work better when our minds and our bodies are relaxed. So at its fundamental level, Reiki is doing that. So it's sending energy to balance our own energies. So it's relaxing us, it's calming us, it's bringing everything down. So if we're stressed, if we're anxious, it's just bringing everything down. Conversely, if we're fatigued, then Reiki will give us a bit of an energy boost, because the energy is doing exactly what we need it to do. It's recharging our cells, it's recharging our beings. So if that recharge looks like a relaxation, that's what will happen. If that recharge looks like an energy recharge, then that's what will happen too. Quite often we need both. So a lot of people who sleep a lot but are still tired, they need both. They need relaxation to relax their cells, to stop being anxious, to stop worrying, but they need a boost of energy at the same time. And you kind of think, well, how's that possible? You're either tired or you're energetic. But that's not how our bodies work. If things are in balance or unbalanced, then you can feel tired all the time. And a lot of you, I know, struggle with this. And you can be tired a lot of the time. You can sleep for England or wherever you live, but you can still be tired when you wake up. And that's a perfect example of when our bodies need relaxation, but also need the right energy boost as well. So Reiki can do that. Reiki also relaxes muscles. So it works on a physical as well as an emotional level. You get your emotional relaxation, but you also get your physical relaxation. So you will get practitioners putting their hands over specific muscles, over specific areas, and that's sending that energy to that specific area to do what's needed. So to relax normally, relax the muscles and clear any blockages. You'll remember in my last live I talked about energy blockages and how they are responsible for dis-ease, aches, pains, bruising, bloating, all of that irkiness, especially that we get with endometriosis. So Reiki will work to clear those blockages on a very, very gentle level. Now, Reiki has different levels. At its most fundamental level, you will hear practitioners say, Reiki can do no harm, it's really, really gentle. Reiki just goes where it's needed and it's fine. Now that is true, but the more advanced the practitioner, the more they get to work with the energies, understand the energies and can direct the energies better. So with something as complex as endometriosis, if you're going to use Reiki to support recovery, to support healing, then make sure you are working with a Reiki practitioner who is sufficiently experienced to understand how to use the energies properly. Endometriosis is a prime example of a condition that has emotional and physical components to it. Most often than not, I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but most often than not, people seek help with the physical symptoms, the physical result of endometriosis. But actually the emotional side needs addressing just as much, if not more so. Again, cause, trigger, symptom. So make sure you're working with a Reiki practitioner who understands the complexities of endometriosis and who understands how to direct the energies. Because whilst Reiki will go anywhere, do anything, it can't do any bad, You need somebody who can really target that energy in the same way that other therapies that we'll go on to talk about will. But you need somebody who can use that Reiki energy to its full effect. What do I mean by that? Well, I mentioned how Reiki can help emotional and physical. So on its most basic level, you can have a Reiki therapy treatment that is literally somebody just sitting with their hand on your head for the whole session. And theoretically, that is sending energy through you. It's going down the meridians. Remember, I talked about the Nile and the subsidiaries of the Nile. The Reiki is going down. It's traveling down the meridians. It's traveling down your energy centers, and it's removing any blockages that are there. So it's acting like a rainfall. It's acting like it's flushing through your channels. It's flushing through your subsidiaries, and it's clearing any blockages. So theoretically, a Reiki treatment could just be that. However, when you start to really understand the energies and play with the energies, you can start to manipulate muscles, manipulate bones, and manipulate bones sounds a bit scary. I don't mean that in a scary way, but you can really start to see some incredible changes within your Reiki session. So yes, if you're looking for a practitioner, make sure that you are getting somebody who understands endometriosis. The beauty of Reiki, and this is where it gets a bit Star Warsy, is that you don't need to be in the same room. So again, bear with me. I know this is a bit too much for some people, but it does work, trust me. And if you're a bit dubious, ask me to send you some distance healing, and I'll send you some distance healing. But this is how I can use, and this is, so Reiki, I should say, Reiki forms the basis, or it's one of the core elements of my treatment and teaching protocol, framework, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's what I do. I combine it with other things, especially sort of guided meditations and hypnosis. But Reiki is a fun, and we'll talk about them a week later on. But Reiki is one of the fundamentals. So you don't have to be in the same space. So Reiki is based on the principle. I'm just going to switch these over. That's better. Reiki is founded on the principle that there is no such thing as time and distance. So time and distance are manufactured concepts to give us humans a sense of control over something that really we have no control over. So distance first. In Reiki concepts, we basically, and this again, this stems from, and check my other videos out, but this is sort of uniform across different therapies. We all come from the same creational source, whatever you believe that creational source to be. So whether you believe it's a god, it's different gods, it's the Big Bang, whatever your belief around that creational entity, that creational event is or was, we all come from that one thing, that one source, or the same source, even if it's multiple sources, the same sources. So because of that, we are intrinsically linked. We all vibrate. We have vibrations within us that correspond to other vibrations. So anything that is living or that comes from the same place that we do. So this is why crystals are so powerful. This is why we talk about vibrations and getting vibes off people. That's kind of what we're meaning. And this is quantum entanglement, quantum physics, quantum entanglement. This has been scientifically proven that we as humans have vibrations. We vibrate. And it's that vibration that links us all. The butterfly effect, you may have heard of the butterfly effect. So if a butterfly flaps its wings over in Sri Lanka, what impact does that have on the winds over near, I don't know, Tanzania, just as an example. So how does something happening here influence something happening here? Because it does. So this is the laws of quantum entanglement. We are linked through vibrations. So we don't have to be in the same place as somebody to impact on them. You can send somebody love, and I suppose in essence Reiki is just love. So you can send somebody Reiki, you can send somebody loving thoughts, you can send somebody vibes when they are the other side of the world, and it doesn't mean that they don't receive those vibes. It doesn't mean that they don't feel that love, that they don't get that healing. That's what Reiki is. So when you are again seasoned practitioner, experienced practitioner, you can learn how to use that energy and send that energy to whoever, wherever, whenever you want. So for my clients, I will send them distance healing. We do it on Zoom, so we're kind of in the same online space, if that's a thing. So it's an actual session, but I will send them distance healing. I will send them that Reiki as part of their treatment package because I know how powerful it is. What I also do as well is attune people. So people joining my coaching or my treatment and teaching programs will get their level 1 attunement, because what that does, it enables them to use Reiki when they're doing their own self-care. So Reiki is all around us. You don't need any specific qualifications to use it, but Reiki Level 1 will enable you to use that energy, to direct that energy, and to boost your self-care rituals like never before. So you can go and see somebody to have it done to you, or you can learn how to do it yourself. Sometimes it's nice to have a treatment. Sometimes you just need a boost and you do it yourself. That's fine. So we don't need to be in the same room as somebody. So you can send this Reiki to anybody at any time. And when I say any time, again, time is a manufactured concept. So with Reiki, you can send it to somewhere in the future, or even somewhere in the past. So when we talk about ancestral healing, when we talk about the emotional trauma that could be one of your causes of endometriosis, we can use Reiki as a really, really valuable tool to heal your past. And again, done in conjunction with other therapies, this is really, really powerful. It's really powerful by itself, but when you start mixing different therapies into that treatment, it gets really, really powerful. So how does it do that? It basically, well, there's two theories. Both of them, in my view, hold equal weight. And to some extent, it doesn't matter which one's true. The fact is it works. So some of it is retraining our brain. It's retraining our emotional response to that event that happened. It doesn't change the event. We can't change the event. We can't change the fact that whatever it was happened. But what we can do is reshape our feelings around it. We can reshape our emotional responses around it. So that's one of the things that Reiki does. It changes our emotional response. So again, if we use it in conjunction with other therapies, hypnosis, emotional freedom technique, if we start building in different therapies, it's really powerful. So what we would do is send a different narrative to that event. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't say that it didn't happen. It didn't say that it's not horrific if it was a horrific event. It doesn't change that. What it changes is your internal response to it. So it takes away the fear, it takes away the anxiety, it takes away the stress of that situation. So your body no longer reacts in the same way. Because remember, again, check out my videos on stress and anxiety. Our body's fundamental reactions to stress, anxiety, fear. Our body can't tell the difference between a perceived threat and an actual threat. So if you're living with the memories of this event, if you're reliving this event either consciously or subconsciously, your body is going into fear mode all the time. So what Reiki can do is change that narrative. It calms things down and it sends healing to the event. So that's kind of, and whether that's a psychological thing, so whether that's purely kind of in the here and now and you just change your response here and now, or whether it actually does send healing back to the past and it does create a different physical environment around whatever was happening at the time, that's open to interpretation. That's open to your interpretation. People find meaning that sits well with them. Either way, it changes the narrative. Either way, it changes how our body responds to something. It changes the learnt response. Now, it can do this after one session. It can take a few sessions. It depends how ingrained those fears, those beliefs, those responses are. But that's a great way that Reiki can help. So how on earth does this help with endometriosis? So again, a lot of the clients I see have deep-seated anxiety issues and have deep-seated blockages that are caused by past trauma. So what we can do is use Reiki. We can send Reiki to the past, to that trauma, and clear all the baggage, if you like, that's come from that trauma. Like I say, it won't change the event, it won't change the fact it's happened, but it will change your emotional response to that. It can also do the same with physical injury. So again, if you've got a long-standing pelvic issue, if you have a tilted uterus, anything like that that's being caused or hampered by physical trauma, by physical muscle tightness, then what we can do is focus the Reiki on that specific area, on that specific muscle if we have to. And quite often, and again, it sounds far-fetched unless you've experienced it. And if you have experienced it, I'd love to know your feelings in the comments below and your experiences in the comments. But so what I do when I'm treating people is I target the Reiki at specific muscles. So as you'll know, again, if you've worked with me or if you've watched any of my other videos, emotions get trapped in muscles as well. So this is kind of addressing the emotional and the physical at the same time. But what we can do with Reiki is direct it to specific muscles, and quite often you will feel that release. Now that release will happen either when you've physically released a muscle, so you will feel that sudden, and quite often I notice people's pelvis just relaxes all of a sudden, or you can have it where something's just stuck and it just suddenly relaxes, and you just get that, and one leg almost kind of gives way because you've got that release. Or it can happen as an emotional release, or it can happen as a mixture. So quite often people will just sob, just break down into tears, or they'll just feel like I've heard it described as the weight of the world just lifted. So you could get those responses as well. Or like I say, you can get a combination of the two, the physical and the emotional release. So Reiki is really, really beneficial because you can build Reiki into any other treatment. So like I say, I do Reiki when I do massage. So when I teach my clients how to do the abdominal massage, if they want to do their level 1, I can show them how to incorporate Reiki when they're doing their abdominal massage, which is a really, really nice way of releasing the physical tension in the gut, but also that emotional release as well. We can, lost my train of thought there. So we can also, hypnosis, I do guided hypnosis and Reiki healing sessions, which is really, really great for the anxiety, for stress. If stress is a major trigger or even a cause of your endometriosis, then that's a great way of releasing that stress. And we can do recorded sessions again. So because you can send Reiki to any time, any place, we can do a distance session as well that's recorded. So then every time you listen to that recording, you get the healing. And again, if you do your level 1, then that just boosts that as well, because you are also channeling that energy. So when and we will look at acupressure and acupuncture, but when you combine Reiki with all of these different therapies, you're just boosting it. So it's like the normal treatments, but on steroids. It's just boosting your energy. It's boosting your energetic channels. It's great as a standalone treatment, but it also enhances other things as well. So I hope that's a really good overview in terms of, I might have just confused you even more. I hope it hasn't put you off. Don't let if you're not particularly into kind of this more spiritual side of alternative therapies, please don't let it put you off. It doesn't have to be particularly, it's not a cult. That was the only word I could think of in my mind, but it doesn't have to be this kind of otherworldly, weird session. It's very, very normal. And if you have had a Reiki session with me as well, I'd love just for you to pop in the comments about, I was going to say about how normal it was, but you might not have found it normal. You might have found it incredible, or however you found it, it'd be really, really good to know. At its fundamental level, Reiki will relax you. It boosts your body's natural healing abilities. So even if you just have Reiki, that will be doing so much good for you, your body, your soul, your body, mind and spirit connection. But then once we start to combine it with other stuff, it really can be so powerful when treating endometriosis. So I hope that helps. Any questions, please do let me know. If I've confused you or scared you, please do let me know as well, because that would be really useful to know as well, because I quite often talk about Reiki, and it's really difficult when you're doing these lives because I can see you watching, but I can't see your face. It's the same as my webinar. So I don't know if your eyes are rolling, I don't know if you're tutting. So if it is a bit of a step too much, it'd be really good for me to know, because then I know how to talk about it in the future as well. But yeah, Reiki is fundamentally a very, very gentle, very useful, very, very powerful tool to address physical and emotional. It comes in really useful when we're addressing endometriosis symptoms, causes and triggers, especially when we use it in conjunction with other therapies as well. Okay, let me know if you've got any questions. Have a lovely rest of the week. Have fabulous weekends, and you know where to find me if you need anything. Take care, guys.